Welcome to the first episode of workersdotcom Staffing Pulse, Insights from the Frontline, the podcast where America's workforce and workplace stories come to life. We'll be talking hiring trends, job market shifts, and frontline experiences from the people who live it every day, employers, job seekers, and the staffing pros who keep industries moving. Whether you're trying to hire smarter, find your next opportunity, or stay ahead of what's changing in the world of work, you're in the right place. I'm Jennifer, Personnel Manager, and your co-host today.
And I'm Sam, Staffing Manager and fellow co-host. Over the coming weeks, you'll also be hearing from our colleagues, Rod, a recruiting manager, and Shelby, a recruiting coordinator, right here on the twice-weekly Staffing Pulse podcast. Every episode, we dive right into the topic at hand, so let's get started.
Today, we're talking about the two-way job interview. I love this concept because in real life, both sides are already evaluating each other. The employer is thinking, will this person show up, stay safe, and learn the job? And the worker is thinking, am I going to burn out, get hurt, or be treated fairly? We just don't always say those things out loud.
So, our goal in this episode is simple. Turn interviews from one-sided interrogations into mutual fit checks. That way, employers get better matches and fewer early quits, and workers stop landing in jobs that just are not built for them.
Let's name the core problem first. Most interviews in our world, industrial, warehouse, light manufacturing, are rushed and very one-directional. The employer or staffing rep is trying to move fast. They ask a few yes or no questions, maybe skim the resume, then jump right into, orientation is Tuesday, can you start?
Meanwhile, on the worker side, a lot of folks feel like they can't really speak up. They might be thinking, that shift sounds rough, or I'm not sure my bus even runs that late. But they don't want to blow the opportunity by sounding picky. So they say yes, and then the deal breakers show up later on the floor.
And those hidden deal breakers cost everybody. Employers get no-shows, frustrated supervisors, and safety incidents from people who are just trying to keep up. Workers get labeled as unreliable, when really the job and their life just never lined up in the first place.
Let's be really clear. A strong two-way interview actually saves time. Some employers worry, if we invite questions, this is going to double the length and slow down high-volume hiring. But in practice, a short, honest, two-way conversation up front prevents that rework later, reposting roles, retraining, refilling seats.
Exactly. And for job seekers listening who might be thinking, if I ask about safety or schedules, I'm going to look difficult. We're going to give you language that shows the opposite, that you're serious, that you want to succeed, and that you're thinking about staying, not just getting in.
We'll start with employers and staffing pros. If you have 10 to 15 minutes with a candidate, there are three big things you really want to learn: reliability patterns, safety mindset and coachability, and the reality of their schedule and commute.
Let's unpack the first one. Reliability patterns. Instead of asking, are you reliable? Because everyone says yes, ask about real habits. Something like, tell me about your last job. What did your typical week look like? What time did you usually get there? And how often did you miss work?
I like to add a follow-up right away. After they answer, I'll say, if we talked to your last supervisor, what would they say about your attendance in the last 3 months you were there? That pushes people into real examples without feeling like an attack.
And keep it plain language. You don't need corporate buzzwords. You need work stories. Tell me about a time you were running late. What did you do? You'll hear who calls ahead, who just doesn't show, and who problem solves.
Second piece, safety mindset and coachability. In warehouses and plants, this is huge. You want to know, does this person take safety seriously, and can they accept coaching without shutting down?
A simple, powerful question is, tell me about the safety rules at your last job. Which ones were most important, and how did you see them enforced? Someone who says, we had some posters, I think, is different from somebody who says, we had to lock out before maintenance, and my lead would send you home if you didn't wear PPE.
I'll sometimes ask, have you ever been corrected on the floor for how you were doing a task? What happened next? I'm listening for, yeah, my supervisor pulled me aside, showed me the right way, and I changed it. Not, they were always on me.
Third piece, real schedule and commute realities. This is where a lot of early quits hide. People say yes to shifts that look good on paper, but don't work with childcare, second jobs, or bus routes.
Instead of just asking, can you work second shift? Try, walk me through what your day looks like on a second shift schedule. When would you leave home? How would you get here? Who else depends on you during that time? You're not prying, you're mapping reality.
And then get very specific. This site sometimes runs 10 or 12-hour shifts with short notice overtime. How would that impact you on a school night, on a weekend? You want them to imagine it before it hits them in week 1.
So that's the employer side of what you want to learn. Now let's flip to what you need to share. Because a two-way interview isn't just about asking better questions, it's also about telling the truth about your job.
Yes, we talk a lot about selling the job, but in industrial staffing, overselling is dangerous. Sharing the real job honestly doesn't scare off the right workers. It actually pulls them in because they know what they're signing up for.
Think about 4 buckets you want to describe: pace, supervision style, physical demands, and first 30-day expectations.
For pace, instead of saying it can be busy, say something like, this is a fast-moving pick-and-pack environment. You'll be on your feet most of the shift, and once you're trained, the goal is about 120 picks an hour. It feels like steady walking and scanning the whole time.
On supervision style, a lot of friction happens when someone expects one thing and gets another. Be upfront. Your direct lead is very hands-on the first 2 weeks. They'll be right there correcting you in the moment and tracking your numbers. After that, they expect you to run pretty independently. That lets a worker decide if that environment fits how they like to learn.
For physical demands, avoid the vague some lifting required. Give a real snapshot. You'll regularly lift 30-40 pounds, and occasionally up to 50. There's bending, reaching overhead, and repeated twisting as you load pallets. We do have pallet jacks and some mechanical assists, but you should be comfortable doing that most of your shift.
And first 30-day expectations might be the most important. That's where so many misunderstandings happen. Try, we expect new hires to make some mistakes in week 1. That's normal. By week 2, we're looking for you to hit about 70% of the standard. By day 30, we want you close to full speed, arriving on time, in PPE, no safety shortcuts.
When you say it like that, workers don't walk off because they can't keep up after 3 days. They have a picture of what progress looks like. And if somebody hears that and says, that sounds like too much for me, that's a good thing. You just avoided a bad match.
All right, job seekers, your turn. Let's talk about the questions you can and should ask in a two-way interview without sounding demanding.
We promised you 5 respectful questions. You can literally write these down and bring them with you. The first one is about training. You can say, can you walk me through what my training would look like in the first week?
That question signals you want to succeed, and you can listen for clues. Is training just, we'll show you once and hope you get it? Or is there a real plan with shadowing, check-ins, maybe even a buddy system?
Second, ask about safety. A respectful way to phrase it is, what are the most important safety rules on this site, and how do you train new people on them? Again, you're not challenging them. You're showing you care about going home in one piece.
Third, overtime. Instead of, do I have to work overtime? Try, how often do you run overtime? And how much notice do people normally get? That's professional. And it tells you if this place lives on last-minute 12-hour days or if it's more predictable.
Fourth, temp-to-hire chances. In a lot of warehouse roles, that's the big question. You might say, if I'm doing well, what does the path from temp to full-time look like here? About how long does it usually take? Now you're inviting them to describe what doing well means.
And that leads right into question 5. Who decides if I'm doing well, and how will I know? Maybe it's your supervisor. Maybe it's the agency. Maybe both. But if nobody can answer that, that's a sign the expectations might be fuzzy.
Notice the pattern in all of these. You're not saying, I won't do this or I refuse that. You're saying, help me understand how this works so I can be ready. Employers, when you hear questions like this, that's not trouble. That's engagement. That's someone who wants to stick.
Let's bring it all together with some quick mini scripts so you can actually hear what a two-way interview sounds like.
All right, I'll play the staffing rep. Sam, you be the candidate.
Perfect. I'll channel my inner warehouse associate.
So Sam, tell me about your last job. What did your typical week look like? What time did you usually get there? And how often did you miss work?
I worked second shift at a distribution center. I was scheduled 4 10-hour days. Most days I got there about 15 minutes early to clock in and settle. I missed maybe 2 days in 6 months, once for a doctor's appointment and once when my car broke down. But I called in both times.
Now I'd follow up with, if we talked to your last supervisor, what would they say about your attendance in those last 3 months?
And as the candidate, I might say, they'd probably say I was dependable. I picked up extra shifts when they were short, and I let them know early if I needed time off.
Now flip it. You've asked your questions. Sam, as the worker, you ask me about safety.
Could you tell me what the most important safety rules are on this site and how you train new people on them?
As the employer or recruiter, a strong answer might sound like, great question. Our biggest safety focus is on forklift and pedestrian traffic. New hires go through a 1-hour safety orientation on day 1. Then your lead walks you through the floor and points out all the high traffic areas. For your first week on the line, we pair you with a more experienced coworker, and your lead checks in twice per shift.
If you're a worker and you hear an answer with that kind of detail, that's usually a good sign. If the answer is, yeah, we're safe, don't worry about it, and they change the subject, make a mental note.
Let's do one more mini script around overtime and temp to hire, because that's where expectations often break down.
How often do you run overtime here? And how much notice do people normally get?
We're busiest from October through January. During that time, we usually run 10-hour shifts Monday through Thursday, plus some Saturdays. Most weeks, we know by midweek if we'll need Saturday, and we post the schedule on Thursday. Outside of peak, overtime is more occasional and usually voluntary.
Then I might follow with, if I'm doing well, what does the path from temp to full-time look like here? About how long does it usually take? And who decides that?
And a strong employer answer might be, for this role, most temps convert around 90 days, assuming good attendance and performance. Your supervisor and the staffing agency both weigh in. We look at your safety record, your pick rates, and feedback from your team leads. Now, both of you know what the finish line looks like.
All right, let's land this with some simple action steps and a quick recap.
For employers and staffing pros, your one next step, add one new question to your very next interview. It could be, walk me through how you'd get here for this shift, or tell me about a time you were corrected on the floor. Just one question that gives you a real story, not just a yes or no.
For job seekers, your one next step, bring at least one of those 5 respectful questions to your next hiring conversation. Maybe it's, can you walk me through what my training would look like in the first week? Use your own words if you want, but ask something that helps you picture your first 30 days.
Let's hit the 3 big takeaways quickly. 1.
Interviews in warehouses and plants work best as two-way fit checks, not one-sided interrogations. When both sides can talk honestly, you avoid hidden deal breakers and improve safety and retention.
2. In 10 to 15 minutes, employers can learn what really matters: reliability patterns, safety mindset, and coachability, and true schedule and commute realities by asking plain, work habit questions.
And 3. Job seekers can and should ask respectful questions about training, safety, overtime, and temp-to-hire. Those questions don't make you difficult. They show you're serious about staying and succeeding.
That's it for today's episode of workers.com Staffing Pulse. Insights from the front line.
Thanks for listening. And next time you sit down for an interview, remember, it's not just, do we want them? It's, does this work for both of us? Let's dive in again on the next episode.